Very good afternoon, and thanks for clicking on to this Tropical Outlook Gamey special. We are looking at the Category 4 Typhoon Gamey making a landfall on Taiwan as we speak, and it is bringing some fairly devastating impacts. So there's three areas globally to look at the moment. We've got an invest area in the East Pacific, Invest 93E. We've got a system here that is over the Southeast Asia mainland, and then we've got the Typhoon Gamey here, which is now making impact on the island of Taiwan, a very mountainous region that is home to some of the biggest rainfalls anywhere on the planet. When you have a typhoon making landfall in this region, we can see devastating flooding in excess of 1,000 millimeters falling within a 24, 36, 48 hour time frame, and it looks as if we may have that scenario playing out. If you look at the infrared imagery here, seen of tropical tidbits, it is now moving across, scraping the east coast of Taiwan, delivering some very intense rainfall. But look at something here. As the system moved in off the Pacific, it bounced against the island itself here and is now running down the east coast of the island here. This is a worse scenario for Taiwan as opposed to the system just plowing right across. It means that we've got a prolonged period now of intense winds in excess of 120 to 140 miles per hour. We're also going to see rainfall rates in excess of 6 to 12 inches over the space of 5-6 hours. And we could see some incredible rainfall totals when all is said and done. Now, this is an interesting tweet here by China Weather Nerds, and you can see here this tweet shows Gamey essentially bouncing off the east coast of Taiwan here, because, like I say, we've got the essentially mountains as soon as you hit the coastline. It is a very, very steep topography, and essentially the circulation, as that eye wall hit against and interacted with the land, it was forced to again run southwards, which is pretty remarkable stuff, actually. An incredible interaction between ocean and land. But China Weather Nerd says that the center of Super Typhoon Gamey is being dragged towards the south as it starts to interact with the huge mountains over Taiwan. And the huge mountains also mean that we're going to, you get these astonishing rainfall amounts because the air is already super saturated, containing a tremendous amount of liquid. But also when it's forced to rise up the eastern and the windward side of these mountains, it actually forces even more rainfall to come out of the clouds here. So this is a pretty remarkable, situation, but not completely uncommon. Observed, this phenomenon is observed and extensively studied, for example, in 2018. And these are past systems that have done the very same thing. It's kind of interacted with the very, very lofty land mass of Taiwan and has forced a shift in the track of the system itself. So you can see here the IR imagery showing that just prior to landfall, cloud tops in excess of minus 90 degrees Celsius here. Water temperatures are very, very warm in this region here, hence why we've seen rapid intensification within Gamey from a Cat 1 to a Cat 4 within the space of 48 hours. But we've got water temperatures here in and around Taiwan of around 30 Celsius, and the heat content depth of that warm water goes to quite a few meters down below the surface, 50, 100, 150 meters below the surface. We've seen a lack of wind shear and an overall conducive environment for Gamey to become as strong as it has done. So looking at the track of the system itself, you can see here this is the current position. The surface plot here showing that the center is just along the east coast here, kind of midway down the Taiwanese coast here. You can see that the forecast models here indicate this is the GFS ensembles, for example, showing eventually it does cross over the island here on the north side, and then it moves into China, weakening and raining itself out over the next several days or so here. Looking at the global hurricane models here, you can indicate that, again, it has a similar idea to the GFS ensemble, taking it across the island of Taiwan and eventually raining itself out over the Chinese mainland here. Looking at rainfall amounts here, astonishing rainfall amounts at that. Let's have a quick zoom in and see here what we're looking at. And essentially, the top of the scale is 500 millimeters. And essentially, that is what is expected across the majority of the island of Taiwan. This is the period up until Sunday at 12Z here, so this is a little bit far out. But even if we skip all the way back to the end of Thursday, we still expect to see Taiwan with as much as 500 millimeters of rain falling over the majority of the island. But locally, we are likely to see 1,000 to 1,500 millimeters falling over the next 48 hours before the system finally clears out. So this is likely to be a devastating impact on the island of Taiwan. But unfortunately, this, along with Philippines, is probably the most prone area on the planet for influence from typhoons and super typhoons at that. Zoom Earth showing this video coming out of Taiwan with the rain and the wind. There's the tremendous amounts of rainfall due to this system here, and we are likely seeing, unfortunately, a bit of a devastating situation unfolding here for Taiwan here. This is another interesting video here showing the very strong winds affecting Taipei and adjacent communities around that part of the island here. So the reason, obviously, as has been discussed already, the reason for the increase in activity in the West Pacific is we've got an active phase of the Manchulian Oscillation at this moment in time. The reason, obviously, why the Atlantic is as quiet is we've got widespread subsidence over the Atlantic basin as well. So we will wait and see what happens. It looks as if we are going to start to see an eastward progress of that rise in motion here. So that invest area over the East Pacific may develop over the next week or so here. And then as we move into the month of August, you can see that we start to see the cell of rising air moving into the Americas and into the Western Atlantic basin here. This would suggest to me that we're going to start to see the Atlantic waking up as we go into August. So stay tuned. I will have another tropical outlook this Saturday, and also the European outlook will be available straight after this video, so check that out as well, looking at how the summer has panned out so far versus what we may be able to expect during the month of August. So I hope you can check that out as well. Like, share, and subscribe. See you again tomorrow with more. Bye for now.